How's it going, my bakers? I hope you're having a great day so far. Welcome back to another video. Today I have a very unique recipe for you. Crusty yet super soft pretzel buns. So let's get in the kitchen and see how they're made. Pretzels are a very unique type of baked good. Their distinct crust color, texture and flavor come as a result of boiling the dough prior to baking in an alkaline solution, usually made with water and lye. At home we can somewhat replicate this effect by using baking soda and water. The shape of a pretzel is also very unique, and I have made those before on this channel, but I had never tried making pretzel buns. But thankfully my friend Lan once again inspired me to do something different, and as it turned out, pretzel buns are super easy to make. So let's get right to it. Let me show you how it's done so you can make yours. Starting with the ingredients, we'll need some white bread flour, yeast, salt, malt powder, butter, some beer. I'm using white beer, you can use any beer that you like, or just replace it with water. And we'll need some baking soda. The malt powder is there for flavor. You could replace it with some malt syrup. When it comes to the equipment, we'll need a tray with some non-stick paper, a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, temperature probe, a brush, and a pot for boiling the buns before baking. Now pretzels are usually a bit chewy. That is down to the ingredients and the methods used in making them, and also down to their size. I wanted the buns to have a nice chewy crust, which we'll achieve by boiling them, but I wanted the interior to be extra soft and fluffy. To achieve that, we're going to use the scalding method. And the first step for that is boiling the liquid, which in my case is the beer. Bring it up to a boil, then weigh out the required amount. I used about 30% more beer to account for the evaporation. It's best to have slightly too much than not enough. You want to melt the butter to stop the beer from cooling down too quickly. Also add the salt and a portion of the total flour, and then whisk until smooth. Scalding the flour with boiling hot liquid gelatinizes the starch in it and weakens the gluten. This will make your bread softer and will make it stay softer for longer. You can find a full video about this topic in the Principles of Baking playlist. Okay, cover the scald and leave it to cool down. Scrape the liquid from the lid back into the scald. This is part of the hydration. This is a quick recipe, so I'm keeping things warm here. I let the scald cool down to about 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about the final dough temperature that I'm looking for. Once you are happy with the temperature, add the yeast and the malt powder to the scald and then mix. Finally, add the flour, grab your dough scraper and mix it to a dough. You can cold ferment it if you want to. If you are going to do that, then after mixing, place the dough into the fridge, leave it to cool down for 30 minutes, then give it one fold, place it back into the fridge and leave it to ferment for around 18 to 24 hours. If you're going to do bulk fermentation at room temperature like I am, it'll take no more than an hour and a half. We'll still give it a fold halfway through bulk fermentation. Before you cover your dough up, take its temperature. If it's a bit warm, it'll rise more rapidly. If it's cooler, it'll take longer. Adjust the fermentation times accordingly. Once you're happy with the temperature, cover the dough up, leave it to ferment for 45 minutes. And then, perform the first and only fold. Place the dough on the table with the smooth side down, then flatten it out, fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle to reach point where it started. Then flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, and that's your fold done. Place it back into the bowl, cover it up, leave it to ferment for another 45 minutes. It should really start puffing up now. Okay, the bulk fermentation is over. Now we can weigh our dough ball and divide it into 4 equal pieces because we're making 4 buns. They are pretty big, so if you want to make them smaller, you could divide the dough into 5 or 6 pieces. Alternatively, you could leave it whole and make a pretzel loaf. And perhaps I will try that someday myself. Okay, after dividing, do a quick and light pre-shape. And it works exactly the same as the fold did. Just don't make the dough ball very tight. The pre-shaping step is just there to ensure that the end result is nice and uniform. After pre-shaping, we must cover the dough balls, leave them to rest for around 15 minutes before performing the final shaping. Now we can make them slightly tighter. Give the dough a light dusting of flour, then flip the dough ball with the smooth side down, flatten it out, fold the edge over the middle, and go around in a circle to reach point where it started. Don't try to stretch the dough too much, you don't want to tear it. The smoother you make the dough ball look now, the better it will look after baking. Once you are done folding, flip it smooth side up, tighten it against the table. Lastly, pick it up and pinch the seam together at the bottom. Just don't make it too tight, because it will tear. The scald really weakens the gluten, which helps make the bread softer, but also makes the bread dough more delicate. After shaping, place your dough balls on a non-stick paper lined baking tray, cover them up, leave them for the final proof, which will be a very quick 30 minutes. During this time you want to preheat the oven to 180 degrees Celsius, 355 degrees Fahrenheit, fan on, and that'll be 200 degrees Celsius, 390 Fahrenheit, fan off. Once the dough balls are nicely puffed up, they are ready for boiling. Just make sure the water is already on before the time comes. Add the baking soda to the boiling water, let it fizzle out, and let the water start boiling again before dropping the dough balls in it. The boiling process is extremely short. Just about 30 minutes per side will do it. I like to drop the dough balls in the water with the smooth side down. That way, after flipping them and boiling them for another 30 seconds, I can remove them from the water and they will already be the right side up. The dough balls can go from the water straight back onto the non-stick paper lined baking tray. Okay, they are almost ready for baking. There are only a couple things left to do. Take some of the liquid from the pot and brush the dough balls with it. This will help the salt stick to the surface. But before we sprinkle the salt on top, let's score the buns. I'll use scissors for this. You can do any design you like, just don't cut them too deep. And you can just as well not score them. After scoring, sprinkle the buns with some sea salt. This will give them that nice salty pretzel taste and a nice salty crunch too. I did reduce the amount of salt in the dough to make up for it, but you can just as well leave the salt off. Alternatively, sprinkle them with some sesame seeds perhaps. You could even glaze them with egg. I'll leave those decisions up to you, but whatever you do, once you're ready, pop these bad boys in the oven. They'll take just about 20 minutes to fully bake. And if your oven is like mine and bakes things more on one side than the other, then turn the tray around halfway through the bake to get a nice even crust on your buns. Even baking with the fan on didn't help me much in this case, but turning the tray around sure did. Once the buns have puffed up and developed a rich brown even crust color, they're ready. Now all you need to do is have some patience, leave them to cool down on a rack, and then make yourself a fat sandwich. And there you have it. That's how you make pretzel buns. And who would have thought it could be this simple? Just look at this beauty. The color is so dark and rich. The crust is soft yet crispy. The crust also has a very nice thickness. Boiling, similarly to scalding, gelatinizes the flour, giving the crust a nice chewy texture. We could say that we use two different scalding methods, one for the crust and one for the interior, and they both achieved different results. The crust became thick, crispy and chewy, while the interior became uniform, light and soft. And together, they make for one hell of a bun. And I'm only disappointed because I didn't make this sooner. And if you are into your buns, check out the enriched dough playlist for more ideas. If you don't want that pretzel crust, check out the no need scalded burger bun video. The recipe is kind of like this one, but even softer and lighter. To me, they're all good. Each of them has their own characteristic, and each of them has its place. So what do you think of my pretzel buns? And have you ever made pretzels before? Let me know that in the comments. You want to see more videos like this one? Click over here. Subscribe to the channel, click right here. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.